Hi everybody, welcome to a new edition of Let's Talk About Education with Antonio Corrales. We have talked in this show before about what does it mean to manage an educational program, what does it mean to experience an educational program, and all the implications that it has for students. But we never talked before about what does it mean to manage a media program at a high school level. Well, today we have the honor to have with us Mike Dudas.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Who's gonna tell us in simple terms what does it mean to run a media program at a high school level and the implications that it has for students.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, no problem at all. Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to be your guest today. That is kind of a loaded question. In this whole age of social media, it's really one challenge is teaching our students to be responsible media citizens.
Absolutely.
With all the different social media platforms and knowing, especially in the school setting, I always have to remind our students that in the school setting, we do not have total free speech, freedom of speech,
Exactly.
because the plug could be pulled at any time.
Yes.
So we have to be careful at times to be considerate of the topics that we choose.
Yes.
And so, like for topical type shows, podcasts, radio casts, we try and steer away from politics and that type of thing.
Right.
Because, as you know, even with adults, you can get in trouble with that,
Yes.
or it just starts things that spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
So anyway, but what tends that will be on the controversial side with students when they want to talk about school rules and that type of thing.
Correct.
So
They always want to be that borderline.
right, like recently when they fully installed the security system here. When the like when you came in downstairs, you saw the new doors and the glass partitions that were up, and then they installed a wall in a big traffic area. So now kids have to go around. So kids being
controversial.
that was very controversial, and the kids wanted. We started this segment. It was kind of like point counterpoint,
Yeah.
where a student takes one position and another one takes another position, and they wanted to debate that. And I said, no.
Well, but for our viewers, we are at Galveston Bowl High,
Mm-hmm.
Galveston Bowl High School, and Mike is in charge of the media program. Mike, why don't we start by letting you
Sure.
introduce yourself to us, kind of letting them know how do you get to where you are.
Right, and then we'll get back to day-to-day nuts and bolts of the classroom.
Absolutely.
So I am completing my 12th year of teaching.
Okay.
I am one of these individuals that changed careers.
Okay.
I was in human resources and personnel for 12 years,
Okay.
and no, actually, it was longer than that. I was in education for 12 years, 17 years. I was in HR and personnel, and did that for a long time. It was an interesting experience. And one day I woke up and said, I want to change careers. I didn't feel motivated. I'm one of these type of individuals that needs to be. If I'm not motivated, I'm bored.
Exactly.
If I'm not creating things, I'm bored. So I was bored with what I was doing, and so I had this conversation with myself saying, okay, if you want to change careers, what do you want to do? And I always wanted to get into education. So as the story goes, I knew there was some alternative certification programs out there, and now there's a lot more than there was 12, 13 years ago. And I picked up the phone and called Diane Pulsing, who's with our school district. Yeah. Everyone knows Mrs. Pulsing, and been friends with her for years. And I said, okay. So I called her and said, I just need some advice. I want to get my teaching certificate, and I know there are a lot of teacher certification program, alternative certification program, and can you give me some advice? And so she connected me with one particular one that, which was really a dream because I didn't have to sit in a classroom. Mm-hmm. It was all online. Mm-hmm. And so the first time I ever saw anyone from that particular program was when I got my first job in teaching, and they started coming in and doing observations. So as these programs work is that once you're accepted into an alternative certification program, you can get a job right away.
Correct.
But you have a year to finish all your certification.
Correct.
And in most school districts, because as you probably know, there's not an abundance of teachers out there.
No, there's not.
So they will let you start teaching right away, and then you just have a year to get through, get your certification, take the test and what have you. So I majored in speech communication in college. So my first teaching job was teaching speech in high school because that's a requirement, like a semester requirement for all students to have and able to graduate. And so my first teaching job, and this is another kind of little interesting story, I started right after Thanksgiving, my first year. So obviously I was replacing someone who couldn't finish the year out. It was someone who was ill or whatever. So I stepped into an interesting situation because I started right after Thanksgiving, and then right up until the Christmas holiday. That's when the first semester ended. And with speech being a one semester course, so I had to get these kids to the finish line. And so I was warned ahead of time that the classes that were inherited probably weren't doing very much all year long because they were having one sub after another. And then I was warned that was the class that other kids tended to skip in. Because, when you have a different variety of subs, they don't really know the kids every day. So you can imagine that those kids were really excited about seeing me. So I got them to the finish line, gave them a final, and I just gave them a bunch of vocabulary words and that time because I thought it was a crime if they left a speech class and did not know the definition of communication. So I tried to make it as easy as possible, but kind of try to cram things in. And I can remember the first week or so when I started. Like when my back would be, when I would turn my back, I would turn back around and see a kid pulling books down from the shelf, just kind of trying to create havoc. So I didn't let it beat me. And thankfully, I can remember back, I had a couple of good students that kind of took me under their wing. They showed me the ropes. And so anyway, then when we had the Christmas holidays that year, after I started, 2 weeks later, it was a Christmas holiday. And I was like, boy, this is kind of nice. Go to work for a new job for 2 weeks, and you have 2 weeks off. You can get paid for it too. So came back and then started the next semester, the spring semester. Then I had all new kids. So which was kind of good because then they became my kids and not inherited.
You were able to set up the expectations right from the get-go.
Exactly. So that's when things started clicking. Started bonding with the kids, and then when May rolled around, the end of school, I was kind of sad because I felt like. Oh man, everything was clicking. I was bonding with the kids. Now it's summertime. Now it's time for everyone to go away. And I remember some colleagues then at the first school that I was at saying, trust me, you're going to need this time off, for the mental break, because everyone thinks, and you're being in education too, that this is an easy gig. It's not. If you're not strong, if you don't have broad shoulders and a lot of patience and that type of thing, you're not going to survive.
It could be challenging.
And I hear sometimes you hear grumblings from your colleagues that they'll say under the breath, I don't even like kids. And it's like, what? You're in the wrong business.
The wrong place.
The wrong place. So anyway, so I was kind of sad to see some of those kids go. Then, so my first summer was June was kind of rough because I wasn't used to having this much time off. Then when July rolled around, I was like, boy, this is kind of nice. And then when the 1st of August, I was ready to go back. So anyway, so I was at that first school for my first 6 years. Did really well, and that's how I swerved in all this video media stuff.
How that was? Well, I want to talk a little bit about that because, and you kind of started the conversation when you start talking about the children and kind of the thing that they do here. But I wanted to start. you were kind of telling me before we started the interview. You started telling me a little bit about the story and the background of the studio that we are right now, which you have you have a radio channel, right?
Right. So, so Ball High, we have an online radio station. It's called K-Tor the Tornado. And if you look, and it's 24/7 streaming, so you can pick it up at ktorthetornado.com. And then there's an app available on your iPhone or Android. And you can listen to it on your phone also. And then since then, and that's a whole nother story, probably a whole nother show, we now run 5 different stations. We do the one that's in this studio is primarily the kids shows, meaning the community shows, kid hosted shows, and then 24/7 is a lot of time to fill. Absolutely. So when I'm at repeating shows or or what have you, we run old-time radio shows.
Exactly.
And then our other online stations we have runs music.
Exactly.
And then we have old-time rock and roll. We have old-time swing music from the 30s and 40s. Easy listening adult contemporary music from the 50s to the 80s. And then we have one station that's called K-Tour. We play whatever we want. And it's just a mixed mash of music. One rule I have is we don't play rap music.
Exactly.
Just because I can't understand it. And then I'm scared. And then I'm scared that that profanity will slip by or what have you, or suggestive language.
But the good thing is that the students are actively participating in all those projects, right?
Exactly.
And you train them how to do that,
Right.
right? That's part of the program, right?
And this studio that we're in right now is called the Anita Martini Radio Studio, and that's named after broadcaster Anita Martini. And if you're not familiar with her name, she was the first female sports reporter back in 1974 allowed in a male locker room. So up until 1974, if you were a female sports reporter, you had to stand out in the hallway hoping that the guys, when they would come out of the locker room, would stop and talk to you, which probably sometimes they did, and I'm sure sometimes they didn't because they were tired and or whatever, but that was an exclusive men's only club. So it was an August day in 1974 in the Astrodome when the Dodgers played the Astros, and the Dodgers had just clinched the National League West, so that's back when they only had two divisions. In the National League East and West. And so she was standing out there wanting to get the big interview because the Dodgers just clinched, and one of their coaches, Tommy Lasorda, let her in. They said, come on in, let the girl in. And he gave a speech, I don't want any funny business. She's just here to do a job. And so I guess, as they say, the rest was history.
So that was Tommy Lasorda, wow.
Right. So her, sadly, she passed away in 94, but she had a great career on television and on the radio in Houston, but grew up in Galveston. Her family's from Galveston, so she kind of made all those little check marks that female sports pioneer from Galveston, illustrious career, and so we named us after her. And you can't see on camera, but we have a neon sign, and that's actually her signature.
I'll show a picture.
Yeah. So her family found her signature in their file, and so they had this sign made and gave it to us.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Now, so tell me a little bit about your job in terms of how do you train the kids to, because as any high school you have 9 through 12th grade or so.
Right.
So how do a student first of all decide to participate in your program?
Okay.
And what does the curriculum look like more or less for our viewers?
So as you probably know, Ball High has 4 small learning communities. We have Media Arts, which is this one. We have I&E, which stands for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So that's really like your traditional business community. Then we have STEM and we have Biomed. So when you're an 8th grader coming to Ball High, you have to declare which small learning community which you want to go into. So you stay from a freshman to graduation, you stay in that pathway and you take those type of classes. So that's when students want to be in this particular pathway, they will sign up for it. Or if you're coming to Ball High for the first time because you're moving from another city or community or whatever, they have to do that. So the kind of students that I get, so many of these students nowadays are so techno savvy. I mean, anywhere from video to audio, and
they're really proficient with it.
Yeah, and some of them come fully trained because they're just really observant and that type of thing. And in some aspects, I learn from them. I can tell you honestly, every single day I learn something new, and it's from the kids. When we first started this radio program, when the opportunity dropped from the sky, we weren't necessarily ready for something like that, but as you probably know through your career and that type of thing, and as you probably teach your students and even your kid, when opportunity comes knocking, don't say no.
Exactly.
Because you never know, that opportunity may never come back again.
Correct.
So we said yes, and it just so happened when this opportunity came for us to start this radio program 3 years ago, this student moved from out of state to Galveston for a senior year, and he was the best audio sound person I've ever been around. I learned a lot from him.
Awesome.
So when we started this radio program, I just cut him loose. Said, here, you can set everything up, and I learned from him.
Exactly. You're right. And so when a child gets to the program, you're right. I mean, this generation is probably really proficient. So what are the expectations? They need to create a product.
Yeah, and my philosophy is, and it's not a lot of teachers' philosophy, but a lot though. Just because I see primarily all the advanced kids. There's another teacher that sees all the beginners.
Exactly.
So when they come to me, they either come for advanced audio video production 2 or the practicum class.
So they're really knowledgeable when they get to you.
Yes, and some more than others.
Okay.
And but my philosophy is, because we do tours all the time, and so sometimes I may see new incoming freshmen or whatever, so I tell them, just because I teach only advanced classes does not mean that you can't come in and do the advanced work.
All right.
Just tell me.
Yeah.
And sometimes if it's an extraordinary student and they're bored to tears in a beginner class because they're so far ahead, maybe because, like, we had a student this year who grew up in the film industry, so he was bored to tears in the regular beginner class.
Okay.
So we let him leap to the advanced class. So all you got to do is speak up. So just because you don't... you're in a beginner class doesn't mean you can't come in and do advanced
So
work.
they have to do like videos. They
Yeah.
have to do.
Basically in the beginner class, they will learn all the basics.
Okay.
About how to work a camera, basic editing. Then by the time I get them, then they can really start working on the real meat of the project.
Like editing.
Start doing short films, doing commercials,
Doing
that type of thing,
commercials, that's
promos,
awesome.
that type of thing.
So you feel that when they leave your program, your classroom, do you think that they will be able to, even if they don't pursue a college career, do you think that they will be able to find a job in that
Yes,
area, right?
yes, and time after time, when tour groups come through our school, it's like when you walk in the front door, we're just like right above the front door. So usually we're the first stop on any tour.
Correct.
People come here and they're just amazed. I mean, you saw our TV studio.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Our main. So we're doing. I can honestly say, because we've visited other colleges and we've had media people from other colleges come here. We're teaching and making available things that are college level type work available for a kid. Or even if a kid didn't go to college and he went straight to a TV station. I had someone from C-SPAN here a couple of years ago and told me, Mr. Dudas, most small market TV stations don't have the setup that you have.
That is awesome.
And when she was saying, I was around a group of kids and I was like, see, hear that? You think this is this way everywhere, and it's not.
Now let me ask you this: what is the impact of, in your opinion, the impact that this program have on economically disadvantaged students?
A tremendous impact.
Because that's a big deal for some of them don't have the opportunities, the exposure, and all that. So what have you seen in your career that this program have done for those?
Gives a lot of kids a reason to come to school and do well.
That is fantastic.
It motivates them to come to school every day.
That is awesome.
To the point where a lot of times I say, you got to go to English class, you don't have me for all 8 period.
Exactly.
But it's really helped to motivate and keep on the right track. Some kids that maybe, if they did not have a program like this, that they may swerve way in this direction, but it's helped them keep them on the straight and narrow.
They don't fit in the conventional core class.
Right. They may not be your STEM student. They don't want to be a doctor. They may not be or not interested in owning their own business or whatever. They just their dream is filmmaking, being on TV or whatever. So this helps fulfill those dreams.
Well, and I guess that brings to my following question, which is, you have been in a vocational program for quite a while already. What is your opinion of vocational programs in general in public education? Because that was, like anything in education, you have seen it as cyclical. Sometimes, this was in vogue 20 years ago, and then it comes back again. So what is your general opinion about vocational careers in public education?
Oh, I think it's fantastic. It wasn't too long ago that the mantra or the expectation was all kids have to be college ready. And what you probably know, not every student is going to go to college, and probably a higher percentage than a lot of people want to admit.
Correct,
So
correct.
if they're not going to go to college, then it's important to provide these other career opportunities. And especially the state of Texas has been really good the past couple of years where they've encouraged schools and mandated schools to have kids get certifications
Correct.
while they're here. So that way they can pick up those certifications and walk into good paying jobs
Yeah.
after high school. So yeah, vocational careers and getting that career start at the high school level is very important because, like I said, not every student is an AP student. Not every student wants to sit in a higher challenge class or whatever.
Correct.
Like reading and writing. I mean, yes, most students, and probably even your son sometimes too. What are the things that are not really their favorite is reading and writing, right? It's like because they have to sit and concentrate.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this program, and I hear that time and time again that it gives students.
Having impactful for their
Right,
life.
and it gives them a reason to come to school. And I've had some say that they were really grateful for it because if they didn't have this, they would probably be that bad kid.
That is awesome. Now, for our future teachers who are looking at us right now, or even administrators who may be looking to establish a similar program, within their career and technology funds and everything.
Right.
What are the most challenging part of your job, if you will have to define?
The most challenging part is keeping things fresh.
Okay.
So that way you can keep your students motivated. So I try and and growing up I was always kind of a media type kid where I was aware of, fascinated with what was on TV, like the news and that type of thing. And now with YouTube and Snapchat and that type of thing, kids are creative. So the most challenging thing is keeping those creative doors open for students.
Not making it boring, making
Right.
you're making it out of the box. What about the things that are you had the most fun?
The most fun part about my job is number one, it's never a dull moment. No 2 days are ever alike.
Exactly.
And any teacher will tell you this, that when you're coming to work, you're driving to work, and you kind of have to have your day planned in your head, and the minute you walk through the door, something happens. You may have everything planned up, and a key kid is absent today, or the principal decides, no, we're going to do something else today, or whatever. So you have to be flexible and that type of thing. But the best part of the job is, and I'm finding it more and more as I continue to teach longer, is that some kids that you may start out with that kind of give you the most problems, you're not clicking or you're just not having a good relationship with, all of a sudden a light will go on with that student, and then all of a sudden they get it, and then it's like you become their hero.
That is awesome.
You can't keep them away from you,
Yeah,
So, which is really neat, because I every year I always have that happen where it's a struggle at the beginning of the year. Then they figure out, oh, he's not that bad after all. He's here for my best interests, and he's my hero.
You're going like a mentor for
Yeah, exactly.
That is awesome. Now, kind of to finish up, like how do you envision the future of public education within the next years? Because I like to ask that question to a lot of my person that I interview, because people have different views according to their professions or their areas. So I'm curious to know, how do you envision the future of public education?
I envision the public education program continuing to be provide even more certification opportunities, because even if a kid's going to college, they need that too. Because as you know, with having a bright student who's graduating at the top of his class or very close to it, or up there where he needs to be, you need things on your not only your college application, but your job application resume, things that's going to push your application or resume to the top of the stack.
Absolutely.
So to continue to provide those meaningful opportunities at the high school level. And then it's interesting too, when I first started 12 years ago, it was all about when observers walked in your room that they wanted to see a dog and pony show. They wanted to see the teacher in front of the room with asteroids exploding in the air, keeping your kids' attention or whatever. Then all of a sudden that changed, a flip-flop. Now everything is student-centered.
Right.
when people walk in your room, they're really not interested in seeing what the teacher's doing. They want to see what the kids are doing.
Right.
So, and that's what I try and do too. And that's always been my philosophy. And it's really worked that when the kids produce the best work, I'm there to provide the leadership and the tools necessary for them to do a good job.
That is fantastic. Well,
So that's always been my philosophy.
I want to thank you one more time
Oh,
for
thank
being
you.
with us today. My viewers out there, remember that we had this interview and many others at Antonio Corrales YouTube channel. Let's talk about education with Antonio Corrales and Sterling Evaluation and Assessment.com. Please help somebody today and see you next time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.